The US president is now threatening India over Russia. He is disappointed that Russia has refused to end the war with Ukraine following his 5 to 10 days ultimatum. Donald Trump is now looking at imposing maximum sanction on India. According to Donald Trump, India is the major buyer of Russian oil. Then India buys and sells to the world market. And that if India faces sanctions, Russia will not have a major place to supply. Russia will not have money to fund the war. Russia's economy will shrink. Russia will be forced to be on the negotiating table. It is not clear whether or not India is going to retaliate as far as this new announced possibility of sanction by Donald Trump is concerned. Trump himself tweeted, and that since India has refused to get Russia on the table, then they should face the dance. Now, Donald Trump had first of all a verbal confrontation with former Russian president, who is now the deputy leader or head of the Russian Security Council, Medvedev. Now that Trump has said this, it is also incumbent on India to either align or take it to their own level. Watch this video.
President Trump has threatened India yet again. He says he will substantially hike U.S. tariffs on goods from India over its purchases of Russian oil, a key source of revenue for Moscow's war on Ukraine. In a post on Truth Social, Trump says, and I quote, "India is not only buying massive amounts of Russian oil, they are then, for much of the oil purchased, selling it to the open market for big profits. They don't care how many people in Ukraine are being killed by the Russian war machine. Because of this, I will substantially raise the tariff paid by India to the United States." Trump's warning comes days before his steeper levies on dozens of economies are expected to take effect. His post comes days after his announcement that 25% tariff will be imposed on goods imported from India, adding that the country would also face an unspecified penalty, but gave no details. Earlier, Trump had also pointed to India's continued purchases of Russian oil and military equipment, calling them unacceptable during ongoing geopolitical tensions. Well, let's talk to our correspondent, Susan Tehran, who's now joining us live from New York. Susan, good to see you. This statement by Donald Trump has really rattled Indians, and we are still waiting for a response from the Indian government. But what do you make of Trump's statement so far?
So Trump's statements follows statements made by his deputy chief of staff during the weekend to Fox News. He also complained that India is purchasing Russian oil, and he was telling the host that it's almost as much as the business that China does with Russia. He also prefaced by saying that President Trump has a quote-unquote tremendous relationship with Prime Minister Modi. And then, of course, today, 24 hours later, we see that the president is making these comments on his social media platform. This really is something that many analysts believe is as much of a pressure campaign against Russia than anyone else, considering the fact that it's also a prelude to President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, going to visiting Moscow. And so, as you mentioned, whether or not Indian officials are going to respond or there's going to be some kind of talk prior to Thursday or Friday, we'll have to anticipate what the president wants to do. But I do want to note that we still don't know. He mentioned terrorists, but we don't know, what that number is and how it's going to pan out. We are hearing reports that a U.S. delegation, of course, is expected to be in India by the end of August. That'll give us a lot more understanding about where relations regarding this dynamic between the two sides lie, with Russia in the middle.
All right, let's wait and see how this pans out in the future. Susan, we'll